Welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to put together the HTML and CSS knowledge and skills that you've gathered to be able to do this little project to showcase how CSS can be added into HTML and how you can be able to incorporate even JavaScript to switch from an HTML website. For example, this is an HTML website. I've created an HTML website without the CSS, but once I click on this button here, CSS switcher, it enables me to be able to see how this particular page has been styled using CSS. So all the components that you have been learning in CSS in my past videos on CSS have been incorporated in this particular project, so that to give you hands-on skill on how you can be able to apply CSS in real life projects. Now, without wasting much time, let's dive in and create this website. First of all, we are going to create two files. The first file is index.html, so I'm going to create a new file called index.html, and then I'm going to define where exactly that particular file is going to be stored. So this file is going to be stored here, so I click create, then I go back again to file, then new file, and then I also need to create another file called styles.css. so this file also should be captured inside this particular folder like that. Now I've been able to create two files, so the next thing to do is to create the HTML document. So we start with the first one is HTML, of course, is that the exclamation mark doc type, then HTML. Then you go to the second line, it's supposed to be HTML. Then inside the HTML you're supposed to have the head tag, and then the head tag, we are going to give the head tag an ID. So we are going to give it an ID because we need to do some kind of settings on it, so I'm going to give it an ID of head. Then inside the head tag we are going to get the meta character set. So like always we need to specify this UTF-8. Then you also need to specify the title, and I've used the title as CSS in action. CSS in action as the title of my web page. Then inside this, these are some of the components that are just going to be put in this particular area. Then you will need to open the body. So the body tag, so that is the body tag. Inside the body tag we need to start with the header. We need to start with the header at the top there. So inside the header you are supposed to have an H1 that is going to say my website. Then that is the only part, that is the only thing you're going to show there. Then you're supposed to come up with a navbar. So we need to call the nav tag so that you can be able to add the navbar. So in this navbar we are going to have an ordered list, and then inside the unordered list you are supposed to have the following components. We're going to have the first one, href, href equal sign. Then you can put that because it is not linked in any web page, so that's why we are using that. Then you can close this, and then the closing anchor tag is going to appear automatically. So I'm just going to copy this part and then paste it here 3 times. This is the second one, and then this is the third one. And then in this particular case, inside, before you close the anchor tag, you're supposed to put there the home, and then here also you're supposed to put about, and and then here you are supposed to put contact. So these are the three link or the three menu items that are supposed to be displayed at the top of your website as a nav bar. Then you are supposed to, after doing that, you are supposed to ensure that at the end here also you have been able to close all the LIs needs to be closed. So after doing that, we are done with the nav. It's just but an HTML structure, so it is just going to be as quick as possible so that we can move to our CSS and be able to make it more appealing like that. Now in the main section, we are supposed to create the h2 and h2 tag, and inside this h2 we are supposed to write welcome to Ystech Eagle website. And then after doing that, we are supposed to also add another content down there and say the paragraph a home of all web development stuff. So you can put those exclamation marks. So that is just a text that we want it to appear there. The last thing that we need to add in this main section, we are also supposed to add the button, so that when this button is going to be clicked, it will switch from the HTML HTML form of the page to CSS form of the page. So in this particular case, you are going to incorporate a click and on click, so that when the button is clicked, a certain event takes place, a certain function is going to be called. So I want you to get it in this manner, that this button is going to have a function call. Now when it is clicked, a certain function is going to be called, and in that particular function it contains the CSS file, so that it will switch automatically the CSS file, read the CSS file, and then be able to format this HTML according to the CSS file. Now we need to have the button tag, and inside the button tag we are supposed to have an on click. Remember, an on click is an event listener. So inside this on click, we are going to have a function called add CSS, and then for it to be called to be a function call, we can be able to add those. Remember, we have just given it a name, but we are going to define it. We are going to define that function down there. So don't worry, we are going to define it down there. After defining that, we are going to add the ID. The ID of this is supposed to be button. You can just use the name button, and then you can close that angle bracket, and then the text that is going to appear there, we want it to be CSS switcher. So that is the text that we want it to appear on top of that button. Now after doing that, we go to the last part of this HTML and what we call the footer. So that is our footer. Inside the footer, we are supposed to have a copyright. You can just say copyright, then you can have copyright, then we have that C there. We have that C included there, and then we have Ystech Eagle. Ystech Eagle. So all the right has been reserved for Ystech Eagle. So that is the text that's supposed to appear in the footer section. And now down here after the footer, before the end of the body, we can be able to add now our script tag. We can be able now to add our script, our JavaScript file. And now inside this particular script, we are going to define this particular function that you have just called up there. Now in this particular case, you are going to say that let counter equals 0. So that is where we want to start from. That is our counter starting from 0. Now function, we are defining now the function. We say that function add CSS. Already you can see when I start typing, it is going just to bring to me the function I've just been able to write at the top there. So inside this particular function, we want to write this. We are supposed now to write the following: that counter plus plus. Basically, what is this particular statement try to mean? That here we are declaring a variable called counter, and we are assigning it a 0. We are assigning a 0 to this particular counter. Now after we have declared that, we have defined that function, we are going to increment it. So in this particular case, in other words, we are just saying that counter is equal to counter plus 1. So that is how, when you expand this particular part, that's how it's supposed to look like. So we are going to take 1 plus 0 is equal to counter. So it means that we are going to assign 1 to this particular counter. We are going to assign 1. So we have been able to increment it by 1. So after incrementing it by 1, the next thing to do, we are going to have an if statement that checks. So we say that if counter modulus 2, if counter modulus 2 is not equal to 0. If counter modulus 2 is not equal to 0, then execute the following. What is that particular statement try to mean? It is saying that if counter is not divisible by 2, can you execute this? Remember, it is going to depend on the mouse clicks. So if you click that mouse once, if it is 0, it means that that particular button has not been clicked. But if it has been clicked once, it will be able to execute this. But if it is going to be clicked twice, it is going to execute the HTML. So that is how you can be able to navigate from this HTML web page into the one that has already been formatted with CSS. Now inside this particular if statement, we can be able to specify what are some of the things that need to be added in this particular case. So we are going to say document get element by ID. Document get element by ID. Inside this, we are going to have the head, then we also supposed to specify inner text, inner HTML. So we have got two types here. We have the inner HTML and we have the inner text. So these two things have already you can be able to differentiate the two. So when you talk about inner HTML, you are going to deal with the HTML elements. You're going to be able to format, or you're going to change the HTML elements or the appearance of the HTML elements. But if you talk about the inner text, it means you are just interested with the content in that particular part. Now in this particular case, we are saying that inner HTML is equal to, and then we want to start with the first one. So in order for us to be able to format the HTML, we are not supposed to put in single quotation, and then the first thing that you want to style in this case is the title, and then you can say that the title in this case is going to be example HTML website, or you can say even CSS in action. You can just maintain it, CSS in action, and then you close that title tag there, CSS in action, then you close that tag there, and then you are supposed to put that /n. So this /n basically means move to the next line. So move to the next line after you have executed that, and then you go to the next part whereby you are now going to add the link the link there, we can say that style sheet, and then you can also have href dot that, and then we are going now to reference where the styles.css is located. So it is located in the current directory, so that's why I'm using dot then slash then styles.css. Then by doing that, you can close the double quotation mark, and then you can close the link by doing that. So you can realize here the single quotation that is beginning, it is closing at this particular point. The one that is starting in this particular point is being closed at this particular point. So this is the end of this single quotation. Inside this single quotation, we are interested to change the following. We are supposed to change the title to CSS in action, and also after doing that, we are having a /n, which /n basically we are saying move to the next line, and then link. We are supposed to add the link for our CSS so that you can go to style that page using the CSS file that you have just been able to indicate in this particular place. So by so doing, it is going to enable us now to be able to format it according to the way we have been able to specify in the CSS part. Now after doing that, we are supposed to have the else part, and in the else part, now we have said that when it is zero, it is in the HTML web page, no CSS included. Now when it is incremented by 1, and you have been able to see now that when it is incremented by 1, it becomes an odd number, that is 1, and then 1 is not divisible by 2. Therefore, when a number is not divisible by 2, by default it is going to help us to format that web page into a CSS. Now supposing that the same button is clicked twice, it is going to bring you back to your HTML web page without the CSS. That is the analogy of all these program. Yeah. So basically, when it is an odd number, it is going to the CSS formatted HTML. But if it is an even number, it is going back to HTML without the CSS file. Now in this case, we are saying that document type, document get element by ID, and in this case we are also targeting the head element, and inside this head element we are also going to have the inner HTML, and then inner HTML we are going to now specify the head or the title. We can just maintain the same title. We can just say that or we can just say just HTML web page, and then we end the title like that. So you can see in this case no CSS has been added, nothing has been added in this case. Therefore you can see it is just a normal HTML with that particular title that has just been specified in this particular part. Now this is just but the JavaScript and the HTML. Now we want to move to the CSS. Already I've created this file. We already created this file at the beginning of the tutorial, so we just move to start now making some kind of changes. Now the first thing we are going to work on is to deal with the body. We want to style the body. So the body, in the body section, we are going to have font. The font family is the font family for this particular web page is supposed to be Arial sans serif. Arial sans serif. Already it has popped up, but I just want to have that name there. So Arial sans serif, that is the font family. We already looked at the font families at the previous videos. Kindly, if you don't know what a font family is, you can watch my previous video. Then we can also have the hexacode there for the background. So the hexacode, in this case we are using F2, F2. So that's our background for this body section. Then after specifying that, you move to the next part. We talk of the header. The header, remember we have the header in our HTML. You can see the header is here. So this is our header. We are going to format this header. Now in this particular header, we are going to say that we want the background color. The background color, we are going to use this hexacode also. Xcode should be 1742 174 EA6. So that is the color that you're going to use in this case. And then we have the color. Then you can say the color here is supposed to be FFF, like that. And then you move to the next one. We are going to say padding. We already looked at this concept in my previous video. So we are saying 20 pixels, so it is going to cut across all the 4 dimensions of the header is going to be 20 pixels. And then you move to the text alignment. Text align, we want to align the text at the center. So that is how we want the text to appear. So we are done with the header. We move to the next element, that is the header, but inside the header we have got the H1. So we are being specific in this case what we want to deal with. Now in this particular case, we are going to say that the margin for this heading 1, we want the margin to be 0 pixels. So we have already done that. After that, we move to the next element, that is the nav. So in the nav bar, we want to state the following, that you have the background color to be similar to the one that has been used in the head section, and here it is. So I'll just click on that. That is the background color that I want to use in my nav bar. And then we have the color. We have the color here, and the color is that we are going to use FFF, that is white. And then we have the padding also. We're going to use the padding of 20 pixels. And then we are also going to use the text alignment. Text alignment aligned to be center. So that is it. We have been able to style the nav element. Now after the nav element, we move to the next element. Here we have what we call the nav unordered list. The nav unordered list. So in the nav unordered list, we are going to have the style. Then inside there we are going to have none. Then we have got the margin. We're going to have the margin is 0 pixels. And then we have also the padding. The padding is also 0 pixels. Then we also want the display to be inline block. I already explained these different layout display. We talked about the block, we talked about the inline block, and then we talked about the static. So all these concepts we have discussed in my previous videos. Kindly, if you want more information, you can go ahead and check in my previous video. But just to mention what that particular part is all about, it ensures that these particular elements or these particular list items are going to be horizontally placed. That is what that particular part is all about. Next we move to the main. Element, and inside the main element we are going to have the padding. padding to be 20 pixels, and we are also going to specify the text alignment, and the text alignment in this case we are going to say center. Then we have footer, so we are going to have also the footer part, and inside the footer now we are going to specify the background color, and inside the background color we are going to use a background color like let's use this color hexacode, the hashtag, and then we have AA80 F3. So you can see it has specified the color there. Then we move to the next part of that. We say color now for the text. Color for the text, we want it to be white in color. Then we have the padding also. This is going to be applied in this case, and the padding here is 20 pixels. And then we also have the text alignment. Text align, we want it to be center. Text align, we want it to be center. Now after doing that, we move to the last element that we want to style. In this case we are going to style the button. So in the button we want to use the following. We want to state the background color. So the background color we want to use similar to this, so we are going to use similar to that. Then after that we are also going to specify border to be none. Remember we talked about the border property, and we talked about different ways you are going to use the border effectively. So when you say the border to be none, we say that it's going to get rid of that border inside there. So we are also going to specify the border radius. The border radius is equal to 10 pixels. Then down there we are also going to have the color. The color is supposed to be white, so let's just write there the color is supposed to be white. So the color for the text is supposed to be white. And then we have the padding. Padding also, it has been specified, and then we said 15 pixels by 32 pixels, for example. 15 pixels by 32 pixels. So this means that this is 15 is for the top, bottom, and then 32 is for left, right. Then we move to the next one. We talk of the text alignment. Text align, and then we are going to align the text to be center. Align the text to be center, and then after that we are going to also talk about the text direction. Text direction. Text decoration, not direction. Text decoration to be none. No text decoration for that. And then we move to the next one, that is the display. Already talked about the display. And then display here is going to be inline block, like that. Then last but not least, we also want to set the font size to 16 pixels. So you can set the font size to be 16 pixels in this particular case. Now all this styling is going to enable us now to get the output that we already saw at the beginning of the tutorial. So when I save this, and I also save this, and then I run this code, so you can see this is the initial HTML page. You can see it is just the way it is, with no formatting whatsoever. But when I click this button once, it is going to give me this output. Yeah, it's going to give me this output in this particular case. Yeah, so you can be able to see how this particular part has already been styled for us, but you can see this part is not visible enough, meaning that there is a problem in this particular location. So let me go back to my CSS and check what is the error that has been brought in this particular case. So now to show some difference between the header and the navbar, I've decided to reduce I can decide to reduce the color opacity. I reduced it to this particular hexacode so that it can be able to look differently from the header. And then in order for me to make, because in this particular case you can see like this particular menu items are appearing to be like embedded or is somehow not clearly displayed. So in order for me to make sure that this particular part is clearly displayed, I need to add another part here that enable me to change that. So I'm going to add the nav ul li and then a is for the anchor tag. So I want to change the color for the anchor tag. First of all, I start with the text decoration. I get rid of the text decoration to be none, text decoration applied there, and then I'm also going to change the color of that part to be white. So I want that part to be white when I run this. So when I save this and then I go to the switcher, CSS switcher here, you can see now it has made the underline to disappear, and also it has changed the font of this particular part to be white. So that is how you can be able to get rid of that underline that has been displayed there in your final web page. So this is how you can be able to incorporate the CSS into your HTML, and also to be able to use the JavaScript to be able to switch from the HTML without the CSS to HTML with the CSS using the button. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly click on the subscribe button and also click on the notification button so that you can be informed when next I create a new content. Thank you so much. Bye bye for now.